welcome everyone. So I'm here at New Hope Christian College today in order to tell you a story that comes out of First Peter. Now, First Peter was written by the Apostle Peter to a bunch of Christians who were persecuted throughout Asia, what is mostly modern-day Turkey. So there were all these Christians that, because Emperor Nero had been persecuting them in Rome, had dispersed throughout Asia. And so Peter writes this letter, and it's pretty much a pamphlet on Christian living, giving them advice and just letting them know where their hope comes from in Jesus Christ. So when we pick it up in chapter 5, it starts out, "To the elders among you, I appeal as a fellow elder and witness to Christ's suffering, who will also share in the glory that is to be revealed." Now that's what this section is all about, is Paul is appealing to two different groups. First of all, he wants to talk to the fellow elders, and then he wants to talk to the young leaders of the church, and he wants them to know why they're doing this. So I kind of want to talk about the difference between the elders and the young leaders. I'm wearing my Cub shirt today because the World Series is on tonight. I'm a big Cub fan. But their season doesn't start at the World Series. And back in spring training, when they were all getting ready and they were all playing these games that don't matter, they were interviewing the Cubs coach, Joe Maddon, and they were asking Joe, they're like, how do you get all these young players to contribute so this team can win games? And he mentioned these 5 stages that a baseball player goes through in his maturity. The first one is that when they get called up, they're just happy to be there. And they're just playing. Baseball's a game. They're having fun. And it's just the beginning. Well, then, after they've been up there a little while, they're kind of going to survival mode, where they're trying to earn a spot. They want to play every day. Because they realize they like this, they like where they are, and they want to be here. And then he gets to the third stage, and he says the third stage is the most important stage. And the third stage for a baseball player is when they know they belong here, and they know that they can do this. And he says that is the hardest stage to get people to. When you have all these young kids coming up and they're all, supposed to be the next big thing, getting them to really believe that they belong here, that's when they can start helping you win games. He said up until then, they could accidentally help you win games. They can, contribute. But winning games comes when you really feel that you belong there. And as I was looking at these steps, I go, that works for everything, mostly everything. And I thought about it in the ministry context, because we have so many Christians in America who go to church on Sunday, and that's where their ministry is. Whether they're a new Christian or just they don't practice it much, but those are kind of the happy to be here type of people. It's the congregation, the main Christians that we see in America. But then there are those who really start finding a passion for the Lord, and they like this, and they want to be here, and they start going to small groups, or they start serving in different capacities. But then really, when you get to the people who really feel that they belong in ministry, they feel God's calling, they're the young leaders of the church. And as college students, I know all of you are in one of those 3 stages. And I'm going to ask you that as we study Peter's letter, think of where you are, what stage you're in, and where you want to be next. Once you feel like you belong, the next stage after that is to just do it as much as possible. If you're good at evangelizing, you evangelize as much as possible. If you're good at preaching, you preach as much as possible. You teach as much as possible. Whatever your gifting is, that it would be done as much as possible. And then the last one is like really the elder stage of all you want to do is win souls. So when Peter talks to the old men, he tells them, he says, here's what I need you to do. Care for the flock. You're the elders. Like I care for you, care for your flock. Watch over it willingly. Not for what you get, but to serve God. And then he tells them, he says, lead by a good example. And that's really the key. Wherever you are in your spiritual growth, in your spiritual walk, you need to be an example to those behind you. Because we can always push ourselves up, but it's those who help the others to take their place that will truly help the church grow. He says to the younger men, he says, younger men, younger leaders, accept the authority above you. Serve each other in humility. Humble yourselves in all that you do. Give your worries to God and watch out. Stand firm against the opposition. I mean, doesn't this sound like those young baseball players? To be able to humble themselves in what they do, to be able to look at the needs of the team instead of just their own personal needs. We're all young leaders in college. I feel like a lot of our walks are in about the same place. In this passage, there's two rewards that Peter talks about. The first reward, he says to the young men, he says, at the right time, you will be lifted up in honor. So if you're a young leader like me, you just have to realize that our time is coming and God will lift us up. So we'll be able to be the elders then. And the reward for the elders, according to Peter, is you will receive a crown of never-ending glory and honor. Now, I don't know about you, but that's kind of why I'm at this school. That's why I'm doing my paper. That's why I'm doing my homework. Because I want to serve God so much throughout everything I do that one day I can get the crown of never-ending glory and honor. Now, I just pray for you each today that you can figure out what stage you're in. Where are you at in your spiritual growth, in your walk, and where do you need to be? Because there's two things that from this message, from this passage of chapter 5 that Peter appeals that will get us there. The first one is humility. Stay humble, always. I don't care what stage you're at. God is the reason we are where we are. We find our humility because we are not doing things by ourselves, by our own power, but through the gifts and the talents and the power of God that He gives us. And watch out for opposition. Peter warns them. He says, be alert, of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. We're all susceptible to Satan, whether we're at stage 1 or stage 5. Whether we serve one person or we serve hundreds of people. That each of you stay alert, be aware, be cautious, and lean on the Lord for guidance throughout all this, so that we may all be elders like Paul.